They didn't inherit anything in terms of a disease. They're just reacting to the environment.
People call Dr. Gabor Maté the people whisperer.
Legendary thinker and best-selling author.
He's highly sought after for his expertise on addiction, stress, and childhood development.
The evidence linking mental illness and childhood adversity is about as strong as the evidence linking smoking and lung cancer. And the average physician doesn't hear a word about that. It's astonishing. I can give you the example of Donald Trump. I mean, his father was a psychopath.
You are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
For him, these were not choices so much as survival techniques. And financial stress on the parents translates into physiological stress in the children. They didn't inherit anything in terms of a disease. They're just reacting to the environment. It's a defense against reality, and it's a defense against being judged. You know, well, that says something about my childhood. You know, nobody's born a liar. As we say in this book, there are congenital liars, but there are no congenital liars. No one-day-old baby tells any lies. No one-day-old baby pretends anything. If we end up pretending in any way at all, to the extent that we do, it's because we had to learn that's what we must do to survive.
You said something at the start when I gave the example that I sat with a guest here who went through domestic abuse,
Yeah.
and they are the calmest person.
Yeah.
And then you said, well, maybe they're suppressing it. And in fact, the minute you said that, it reminded me of something they said, which is they said to me on this podcast that they had angry outbursts all the time. So sometimes their child will come up to them
Yeah.
and want to play when they're working, and they'll snap.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
trying to deal with that.
Yeah, that's what I meant, that they're sitting on this volcanic crater of anger, which sometimes bursts out of them. So their demeanor is like a really developed, suppressed way of handling rage, which rage, when they were children, had they expressed, would have got them into more trouble. So suppressing it, repressing it, became their survival. It's all about survival, you see. So it became their survival mechanism. Now, that person, as long as they keep it that way, they're at risk. They're at risk for mental health diagnoses like depression. Because what is depression? It means you're pushing something down. That's what it means. What do we push down? Our natural emotions. Why do we push them down? Because we had to survive. So that person, I don't know, I can't prognosticate. Yeah. It's a defense against reality, and it's a defense against being judged. You know, well, that says something about my childhood. You know, nobody's born a liar. As we say in this book, there are congenital liars, but there are no congenital liars. No one-day-old baby tells any lies. No one-day-old baby pretends anything. If we end up pretending in any way at all, to the extent that we do, it's because we had to learn that's what we must do to survive.
Stress of abuse is destroying you. If you're in an abusive relationship, this will be very important for you to listen to. If you know someone who's in an abusive relationship, be a good one to share. Your abusive behavior is doing you harm, serious, debilitating harm. Let me give you some trauma facts. Dr. Clarke does his research. There is a direct correlation between trauma and physical health conditions. I could give you study after study of this. The trauma causes it, and you're in trauma if you live with an abuser. Diabetes, COPD, heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, you name it. And trauma is causing this physical issue. Wherever you are weak physically, genetically, and families have weaknesses, that's where the trauma of abuse will attack you. If you live with an abuser, you have PTSD. I'm telling you, post-traumatic stress disorder, no question. In fact, your PTSD is worse than PTSD that occurs after only one awful traumatic event. Okay, that's bad enough. Your abuse is ongoing. Your trauma never stops. You will suffer depression, anxiety, memory and concentration problems, obsessive negative thoughts. Sound familiar? The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration describes trauma this way: events or circumstances experienced by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening, which result in adverse effects on the individual's functioning and well-being. Okay, bottom line is you're being destroyed. Physically, emotionally, they don't mention spiritual because it's not a spiritual organization, but emotional, physical, and spiritual damage and destruction. This describes you, doesn't it? Look, we all deal with stress. It's a normal part of life. The stress of living with an abuser is not normal. It is abnormal. It is constant. It's severe. It's damaging. All the clients I work with, in person or by telephone, who live with an abuser tell me they are not doing a good job in any area of their lives. The breakdown is across the board. They're having trouble at work if they work outside the home. They're having difficulty raising their kids and being the loving moms they want to be. They're not as close to their friends. They're feeling distant and awkward with their families. They're struggling to serve God in their church. My response to these clients' terrible strain and unhappiness is this: I believe you. You're credible. You give me a very specific description of what you're living with. You aren't able to do a good job in any of these areas. The stress of living with your abuser is taking a toll on you across the board. No part of your life escapes the impact of his abuse. Of course, your abuser feels fine. He sleeps at night. He feels no pain. His physical health isn't affected by your lousy marriage because he doesn't get it. When you only have a conscience, nothing bothers you. And everything's your fault anyway, from his point of view. Spiritually, he's actually a terrible mess, but he would never believe that. When you don't have the capacity to truly care about someone else, nothing that happens to that person bothers you. He could care less that you're miserable and lonely and breaking down. He believes that's your problem, that it's all in your head, that it's all your fault. You are losing yourself, abused spouse. Man or woman, you are being broken down day by day, month by month, year by year, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You will reach the point, if you have not already, where you don't recognize yourself anymore. You're allowing him to rip from you your self-worth, your identity, your sense of value as a person, your feelings of dignity. Soon there will be nothing left of you. He's taking everything from you.
Steer clear. Keep your life free of narcissists as much as possible and abusive behaving people. Okay? Very important. Now, why do I say that? Because as you're dealing with symptoms of PTSD and complex PTSD, no, you will continue to put yourself right smack in the middle of narcissistic injury over and over and over. And you will be cutting yourself off at the knee in your support base. You're trying to build your support base now, right? If you have narcissists all around you and you keep giving place to them, whether it's your mama, your daddy, your siblings, cousins, uncle, whoever, right? Then you're really not doing yourself any service as far as like your support base goes. Right now, you're building a support base to help you deal with trauma, to help you deal with all of the dysfunctional relationships you had in the past. And some of you right now, you have it. This is why sometimes you're frustrated and angry and you feel certain ways, but you're not quite conscious to how you're feeling. And it's just like you're sliding down this slippery slope and it's hard to hold on and grasp to anything. Seems like the harder you try, the more you get kicked back. Let me give you a secret. Okay, this is something I had to figure out for myself. It's because you keep giving place unconsciously. You keep giving place to people like narcissists and abusive behaving individuals who will exploit you. Okay, and they're very unresponsive. This is why we don't get support from them. Very unresponsive. Argumentative. Bringing up the past, things that they secretly know hurt you, but they keep bringing it up because they want more narcissistic injury. Boundary issues being broken or torn down. See, all of these things punch holes into your support base. You want a strong support base. This is what I had to figure out, guys. And I got busy.
Have you ever gotten that feeling like something invisible is pulling your strings, guiding your reactions and decisions in ways you just don't quite get? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on those hidden forces. We'll explore how past trauma shapes our present, and, most importantly, how we can actually start to cut those strings. So let's get into it. Wow, just let that sink in for a second. Dr. Gabor Maté is saying the link between a tough childhood and mental illness is as scientifically solid as the link between smoking and lung cancer. I mean, that's not just some theory, right? That's as real as it gets, backed by a mountain of evidence. And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If this connection is so rock solid, why isn't everybody talking about it? Why do we spend so much time and energy treating symptoms, things like anxiety, depression, or addiction, without ever digging down to the root cause? It's kind of like we're so focused on all the smoke, we completely forget to look for the fire. Okay, so to really get it, we have to understand how trauma actually works. And here's the thing, its impact isn't just in your head. It's not just emotional or psychological. It leaves these deep, physical scars that can affect our health for years in ways that are pretty shocking, actually. And look, the research on this is crystal clear. We're talking about study after study showing a direct line between the stress of old, unresolved trauma and things like heart disease, cancer, even diabetes. I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. When your body is stuck in that high alert fight or flight mode for years on end, it breaks down. It physically wears you out, making you way more vulnerable to these serious illnesses. All right, so that's the physical side. But what about our behavior? This is where it gets really interesting. A lot of the things we might see in ourselves or other people, stuff we'd call a personality flaw, well, it turns out they're not flaws at all. They're actually brilliant survival strategies we had to learn when we were kids. Really think about that. That person who has a super short fuse, or maybe the person who's almost weirdly calm when everything around them is chaos. That's probably not them choosing to be that way. It's more like an echo from their past. It's a deeply ingrained pattern that got wired in because once upon a time, it was the only thing that kept them safe. And this gets us to a really key idea here, repression, pushing stuff down. And it's so important to get this. It is not a weakness, not at all. For a child who's in a scary or threatening situation, stuffing down a huge emotion like anger, that's not a choice. It's a necessity. It's literally a survival tool. Yeah, exactly. This quote just nails the logic, right? If letting your rage out was only going to get you into more trouble, well, you learn fast. You learn to suppress it, to bury it. But all that pressure, that volcanic feeling, it doesn't just vanish into thin air. It has to go somewhere. So this leads us to the core idea, the central metaphor we're going to use in this explainer. We've talked about what trauma does, but now let's look at how it exerts its influence, usually when we're not even looking. Okay, so picture this. Trauma is like a puppet master. It's hiding in the shadows of our mind, and it learned exactly which strings to pull way back when we were kids, just to help us get by. The problem is, it's still back there, pulling those same strings today, long after the original danger is gone. And that brings up a tough question, but it's a really important one. Who's pulling your strings? Think about it. What parts of your life, what reactions, what patterns in your relationships, what just feels automatic? Where do you feel like you're not really the one in the driver's seat? That's probably where you'll find the strings. And this really gets at the core conflict, right? The difference between what we think is happening and what's really happening. We love to believe we're free, that we're making conscious choices in the here and now. But so often, that puppet master has us just replaying old scripts, reacting to triggers from stuff that happened years or even decades ago. This reframe is a total game changer. Instead of asking why the addiction, we should be asking why the pain. Because an addiction isn't some kind of moral failing. It's a person's attempt to escape from pain that feels completely unbearable. It's a coping mechanism. Whether that's with substances or work or shopping, it doesn't matter. The behavior is just trying to soothe a much deeper wound. Okay, so if we're all susceptible to this puppet master, how in the world do we break free? Well, the journey from puppet to person, it doesn't start with a big fight. It starts with something much simpler. It starts with just seeing. This ancient wisdom really holds the key. The first, and honestly probably the most important step to healing, is just to recognize the source of the suffering. To realize, hey, there is a puppet master. To understand that your automatic reactions aren't just the way you are. They're a direct result of what you went through. And here's what's so powerful about that. You don't have to know how to cut the strings right away. Just the act of seeing them, of noticing in the moment, whoa, hang on. This feeling isn't about what's happening right now. This is old stuff. That simple awareness creates a little bit of space. It loosens the strings just enough to give you a split second to choose your response, instead of just automatically reacting. So once you have that awareness, what's next? What can you actually do to heal those wounds? Well, the source material points to some really powerful tools that go way beyond just talking. And check this out, this isn't just wishful thinking. These are hard numbers. The data shows that journaling can slash trauma symptoms by up to 50%. Art therapy, 45%. Music therapy, 40%. These are huge. When words just aren't enough, these creative ways of expressing ourselves can make a massive, measurable difference. So why do they work so well? It's actually pretty cool. Trauma can damage the parts of our brain that don't use words, the emotional, feeling parts. So when you do something creative, like art, or music, or even just writing in a journal, you're tapping directly into those same areas. You're literally helping your brain build new, healthier roads to process all that stuff. And all of this leads to the ultimate goal, right? The point isn't just to survive what happened to you. The point is to be liberated from it, to be free to actually live your life right here, right now. So what's the path look like? You can break it down into 3 simple steps. Step 1 is awareness. You gotta see the strings. Step 2 is authenticity. You stop playing the part the puppet master wants you to play, and you start being your real self. And step 3, the big one, is agency. You take back control. You grab the reins yourself. And that's what agency is all about. It's the ultimate feeling of empowerment. It's the ability to say, okay, what happened to me was not my fault, but my healing from this day forward is my responsibility. It's that moment you decide your past doesn't get to write the rest of your story. You're the one holding the pen now. It's funny, this quote from Pinocchio just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling of looking back once you've started to heal. It's not about shame, it's about relief, freedom, and just realizing how tangled up you were without even knowing it. And that really leaves us with the final and most important question of all. Once you're no longer a puppet, once those strings go slack and you're the one in charge, who are you going to choose to be? The past doesn't get to decide anymore. You do. So who will you be?